everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 102 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed 1, the original game in the franchise, the place where it all started. And why are we talking about this game 14 years after release? Well, we're talking about it from the point of view of how does it play? How does it hold up for people who are playing it maybe for the first time or revisiting it on a modern console or a modern PC in 2021? For me, I played Assassin's Creed for the first time this year, back in January of this year on my PC. Declan, you played it originally, I guess, on Xbox 360?
Yeah, back the first week it came out, I was right there. Well, I wasn't literally right there because no trailer existed, but tons of friends were just twining and saying, like Prince of Persia, there's a better version out there, go play it. Turn out Assassin's Creed 1, and after an hour of stabbing dudes and running over buildings, I was hooked. Still playing it now, to be honest.
You make a good point about Prince of Persia. So it was based on, or it was a branch of Prince of Persia. Now I'm going to show my age now. I played Prince of Persia. On was it a PC or was it an Amiga or something in about 1990, maybe 91? So it must have been a very early version of Prince of Persia. But I never played any of the follow-up versions released from between the early 90s and the mid 2000s. So did you play the forerunner, if you like, of Assassin's Creed, the sort of later versions of Prince of Persia?
I think you're on about the original was like a 2D platformer, very pixelated.
It was. That's right. It was great.
That's the only one I haven't played. I played the Sands of Time, which was fantastic, and then played the Warrior Within and the third one on GameCube. I can't remember what the third one was. It's like a trilogy.
Cool, GameCube. That's a blast from the past. You had a GameCube, did you?
Growing up with my carers, we didn't have like all the latest technology. They literally hoarded everything. So I think it was when 360s first came out and everyone was playing them. I was still on PS1, PS2, Xbox Originals, and GameCube. So I've been playing like Turok on GameCube, Sonic on GameCube. I love the GameCube. And then playing Prince of Persia on GameCube. And then when I got my carer's brother's old Xbox for Christmas, well, beforehand, I had nothing to play for ages. And then November rolled around the next year, and hey, look, there's an Assassin's Creed game, Prince of Persia knockoff, my friends called it. And then when I played it and then looked back at Prince of Persia, I can safely say that I feel it's better to be a separate entity than a spin-off, as it was originally going to be Prince of Persia Assassins. Spinning off's kind of made it better, and kind of my addiction now 14 years later.
So did you, it was the fact that it was related to Prince of Persia that made you want to go and buy it then?
Pretty much, even though it used to pee the hell off me playing Prince of Persia, the old freerunning mechanics were a lot more constrained than they are now. It was all like platforming and very difficult. But that hooked us, and I know everyone's gonna like come with pitchforks at me now, so I'm happy. I'm ready. When I played Assassin's Creed 1's parkour, I missed Prince of Persia's movement. I found Prince of Persia's movement, with like the wall running, hopping from pole to pole, better than Assassin's Creed's hopping on platforms, jumping roof to roof, because they didn't feel a need for it. Like, if you're an assassin, why are you hanging on the rooftops 24/7? You're not Batman. You should be.
We had this discussion, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Unity and whether you approach on the roofs or approach through the streets and through the crowds. You do make a good point about. I found the same with AC1, that you've got this parkour system and it's very kind of controlled and it's very natural, but oftentimes I found I didn't use it because there's archers everywhere and they're going to get you. So it's often better just to be down in the crowds. But when you started the game, when you go straight in, you're into this. You see Desmond, and Warren is being very kind of icy and threatening, and he's a good bad guy. did you get the framing of it with this whole thing called the Animus, and you're not playing the game, you're actually Desmond playing in the Animus, or did you kind of, I'll ignore all that, just get me to the action?
Truthfully, I binned my first copy. This will make you laugh. Um, I got two copies. Because I could nip to the game shop and buy a new one. I had pocket money to get it, but I didn't play with sound on the first time. Like, I forgot to plug my sound in because it was back when
I want to talk. I tell you what, we need to come to that point in a minute. Yeah, carry on. This is an interesting point about the sound. All right.
This is where I'm going to show my age because everyone talks about HDMI wires. My 360 ran off the red, white, and yellow VGA cables,
Nice.
and I forgot to plug one in. So seeing it all glitchy and broken at the very first scene, I thought my game was broke. I literally took the game out, wiped it, deleted the save, started again, same glitch. So I was like, no, it's knackered, bin it. Told my friends, and they're like, you idiot, play it longer. So I bought a new one, played it longer, and I was still like, I don't get it. Like, literally, so I'm a dude in a memory machine playing a memory, so it's not time travel. I'm not revisiting the past, I'm revisiting a memory. So it's a simulation. So is it fake or is it real? And then I was just so confused. I just keep playing it, see if it was real or fake. I was really
I think
hoping it wasn't
we can
it.
kind of carry that on for the next 14 years, can't we? We're just a dude playing a dude, or sometimes a lady who's doing stuff in history, you know. Um,
And it's all a
when
simulation.
Yeah, well, it kind of is, isn't it? It's a recreation, or yeah, and the Animus fills in a lot of gaps, or doesn't, when it comes to things like swimming, should we say? Um, when did you get sort of invested in the story, or invested in the gameplay and get hooked into it? Can you remember?
The gameplay hooked me, and it's kind of a weird one. I think it's why I got turned off parkour so straight away. Was in Damascus doing one of my first assassination missions. You know, I didn't. I got bored of going on the rooftop, so I started working my way through the crowd, doing some crowd blending, got to my first target. And when I watched the cutscene, I was like, "That's so satisfying." I felt like a ghost. No one knew I was there. I was like Killer Casper. It was perfect, and just then I was like, I want to do that again. And it was like such a high. Like I didn't. I found out about air assassination, but I thought that bland. I was like, no, I could jump on him like a tiger. It's nice. I love the idea of like peekaboo, I stabbed you, and then back into the crowd like you can't see me, and that just like hooked us. And then following Desmond's story in the modern day, that was kind of blew my mind. Little hidden glyphs everywhere, and his snarky attitude. And then Altair just was kind of fun. You know, he was kind of weirdo at the start. I was like, why are you murdering some strange dude helping you? And then I saw the Ark of Covenant after binge watching Indiana Jones. I was like, oh,
Perfect, perfect.
I was excited. I saw the Ark of Covenant. I was like, this is an Indiana Jones. Do I get a whip and a tall hat? I'm going to dodge some obstacles. But then never saw the Ark again, so I started twining because I wanted to see more of the Ark of Covenant.
And you've come back to it this year because you've got your new Xbox Series S and you've got AC1. How does it? Is it identical? Are the graphics improved? Is it upscaling to 4K for you? How does it play on a modern console?
Um, Graphics wise, is always going to be a hard one because my TV is 720p. It doesn't hit any higher than 720p. So graphics for me has never been a problem. I don't care how a game looks because a game could look so crystal clear that glass looks mirrored to real life, but the story could be poor, could be buggy. So I just play a game for its value, and replaying Assassin's Creed 1 in 2021 is just phenomenal. You know, the SSD skipping a lot of the Animus Corridor is sad because I used to love running Alti around. But after doing what 40 Animus Corridors, waiting for it to load on the 360, got tedious because there's not much there. So being able to zoom in after one or two crowds, it felt more immersive. You know, this is what a VR headset would do to you. You know, if you're loading into a simulation in a high-tech corporation, it's not gonna take 10 minutes. It's gonna be like you put the headset on, you're into the
Can you
game.
imagine Desmond getting bored in the Animus going, is it loading yet? Is it loading yet?
That's what I mean.
Nothing's happening.
So playing it on an SSD kind of makes it more like Desmond would be literally strap on, it's loaded, Lucy's done her
Yeah,
bit, Warren
yeah.
Vigdic's chattering, it's on. And I just think playing on an SSD makes the game better because you take that load screen out, so you spend more time in game, and it's just a great ton of fun. You know,
Mm,
don't
mm.
don't change a thing about it. Graphics are still nice. It's still hilarious to play, even though I
Uh,
hate that I can't swim.
yes, that mission. Who is it that we have to kill by the harbour? Sibrand, is it?
I
I forget.
believe so. I'm only
I,
halfway through the story.
yeah, I fell in the water many times, many, many times. My so I started playing it. Funnily enough, talk about one extreme to the other. So I finished Valhalla early January, mid January, and that was when it was kind of as I was approaching the end of Valhalla's story, when I thought, okay, you've played various games across this franchise over the last year. It's time to go right back to the start and then fill in all the gaps. So I jumped from Valhalla to Assassin's Creed, so right back to the start, and it was a steep learning curve. It was an adjustment. Um, I tell you one problem I ran into early on, which was, and this is connected to what you said a minute ago about sound, was the sound kept cutting out for me. So I got to Damascus and I was just sort of walking around the city, soaking it all up, and then the sound was just not working. And I thought I was frustrated because I really wanted to play this game. I know you can go to YouTube and watch sort of the cinematic. People have cut all the cutscenes together and they've created like the video game movie. And I thought I could sit here for a couple of hours and watch the film and get the story and get all of Malik's snarky comments and all of Al Mualim's lessons and all the rest of it. But I want to play it myself. I need to experience the original game in the series. So I thought I'm going to persevere. Okay, the sound isn't working, but I'll persevere. I'll make it work. And very quickly got frustrated without the sound. I mean, I know we spoke last week or the week before, and you said you've played lots of Unity scenes with rock music playing, so you haven't heard a lot of the banter, for example, between the characters. But I need that in-game sound of the crowds and the weapons and the warning sort of sound feedback that you get. And I was massively frustrated, and I was kind of ready to throw my keyboard through my screen and walk away and just say, do you know what, this is I can't proceed. And then I worked it out, and I think it's just a side effect of the age of the game, probably because on PC, I guess, I don't know, it probably uses a very old version of DirectX or some very old APIs. And if I plugged my headphones into my PC because I wanted to play just with the headphones, the game couldn't understand that there was now a different sound output. So I had to start the game with the sound that I wanted, speakers or headphones. If I wanted to change it halfway through, tough. Once I'd fixed that, happy days. I was in there and I was kind of enjoying it. And I remember when I started, some people were saying, the graphics, man, you're going to struggle. The graphics are poor. You're not going to like it. It never bothered me um, because I was kind of enjoying the game and I was enjoying the story and the fact, yes, sure, the graphics don't look like amazing 4K textures that you get in Valhalla or whatever other new game, but I never felt the graphics were a handicap at all. The biggest handicap was me and my inability to learn the controls and this weird sort of high profile on the mouse and low profile and all the rest of it controls and the melee combat again. God, it took me so long to work out you need to wait and then you need to counterattack. You really need to wait. Don't bother attacking them, just wait. Once I'd got that whole point of just waiting and then countering, again, much, much easier. But I will say that again, another another very early moment where I wanted to throw my keyboard through my monitor was is it Damascus? It's Damascus we go to first, isn't it? I think.
I think it's
Is it
Jerusalem. I think Jerusalem's the
Is it
first one you go
Jerusalem?
to.
Okay. The first, let's say the first city we go to, and one of the investigations you have to do is pickpocket. Could I pickpocket? I could not, and I had to retry that mission. I don't know, 10, 15, 20 times before I was close enough and got the key combination right and followed the guy. And again, I think what the point that I'm making is ultimately I sort of mastered the game's controls and systems, but it was definitely a very steep learning curve. Um, and I don't know, this might be a silly comment to make, but I think it was the hardest game for me in the entire franchise. Maybe just because I'm used to the newer games, which are all fairly similar, or maybe because my experience has grown. But I found it to be the hardest game to understand and then control and be able to get Altair to do what I want him to do. What was your experience? Because I haven't played that many games, but you've played a huge variety of games. How did you find it from a difficulty point of view?
Um, at first I found it frustrating, mainly with the tutorial missions. But to be honest, it didn't really. The hardest part was the when you get demoted, you lose counter, and I seriously still to this day believe that Assassin's Creed has way too much on the counter system because Assassin's Creed 2, it's right there. The moment you play it, you got the counter system. Just press B and counter, easy enough. But when you lose it with Altair and you have to re-earn it, the hitbox is terrible. You've been mashing X for ages and it takes about 5 or 6 hits for a guy to go down. And I found that quite frustrating because playing games like Prince of Persia, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, stuff games like that, all over stuff. The hand hack and slash is very easy. You press one and two and they're dead, and it kind of now replaying 2021 without the counter, it makes more realistic sense. These people are wearing armor. Hitting them once with a sword, you're not just going to instantly kill them. If they're wearing armor and skill, it kind of makes the game feel more realistic. Having to relearn that counter system makes it more realistic. It's as if you were adjusting to life again, and having to wail on somebody 5 times with a sword. It's kind of weird. It's kind of feels like it's meant to be. It's something that all Assassin's Creed games should have. We can wail on guys in all the games, but we just fall too heavily on. I wait till 10 of you run at me, and then I'll press B to counter, then I'll insta kill, and they got 20 guys down. It's just boring. Having Altair who has to physically stealth his way around to avoid combat, or get into a really sluggish combat where you're mashing the X button to try and heavy attack them, kind of makes you feel like you've got to be more of an
I didn't know
assassin.
you could heavy attack. I've obviously not been paying enough attention.
I think it's. I'm going off keep 14-year-old muscle memory, like an off tangent. As soon as I picked up that controller and booted AC1 up, the memory just clicked. I was
Brilliant,
sliding through everything. I was
brilliant.
like, upper wall, high profile. It was amazing. But I believe because X is the main button, if you hit, then as soon as you hit and you press X again, you do a heavy attack. It's like a
Okay,
combo style, so you've got to be
right.
very on the ball. You've got to hit, and it does a
Yeah.
heavy, and it has a similar animation to counter, but it's more of a proper sword technique. You hit it again, and they go down. I think if you hold X, it does a heavy, but I played it last night, but I can't remember because I was too busy stabbing dudes like ghosts.
how
So
far
it's like,
how far have you got with your current playthrough then? Who have you just assassinated?
no, and I'm about 20% in because I'm just running around, just having a blast, just
Excellent,
soaking the world in.
excellent.
The biggest missing feature of all Assassin's Creed games: throwing knives. Throwing knives are
Yes,
just so perfect. We don't
yes.
need bullets. We don't need arrows. We need
No,
little kunai knives.
no. I
So
loved throwing
satisfying.
knives in Syndicate. They're just so satisfying.
And Six Keys pointed out on Sisterhood 7, I didn't notice. You can see the kunais go down on Altair's robes.
Oh, it's a great detail, isn't it? It's fantastic.
I was playing it last night and I was like throwing 1, 2, and they're all missing. I was like, never noticed that before. Oh god. But I did want to touch up on something you mentioned about the graphics, and I played Elder Scrolls the other day, Skyrim,
Yeah,
which came out in 2011, and I kind of feel Assassin's Creed 1's graphics hold up better than Skyrim, which came out in 2011, which is kind of shocking
interesting.
because it shouldn't work like that. But I think it's because, as I made note in an older episode, the color palette wasn't. bright colour. It was very grey and dark colours.
Right, yeah.
And I think that lasts longer over time than a palette of bright colours, because over time them colours are going to fade. If a TV can handle 400 pixels of blue, but your own TV can handle 1,000, that blue is going to be a bit more stretched or faded, or not as vibrant as it used to be. I'm not very good at technology. I'm just making some up as I go along.
It's a good point, because that's something I remember from AC1 is it has a very faded, washed out look. My assumption, and of course you've got the modern day, which has got this very kind of bright bluish grey look, hasn't it? When you're Desmond in the research facility or whatever it is, and I've always wondered why it has that. I suppose actually thinking about it further, the three cities have each got their own colour palette, haven't they? Is it? How do you say that city? Is it Acre? Acre? I'm never sure how to
I think
pronounce
it's
it.
acre.
Right.
I would
Well,
say
let's get it wrong, and then
acre.
people can message us on Twitter when they listen to it and say, "Dudes, you
Definitely.
really did not pronounce that correctly." Anyway, that city's got this very kind of steely grey colour. Jerusalem's very sort of much more brighter and yellow, but even so, it does have kind of. You're right. Maybe having a very deliberate colour choice and creative choice um, lasts longer than trying to make it quote unquote real, with lots of green and blue and all the rest of it that you'd see in real life. But yeah, I mean, sometimes like when I was, you climb up to the top of a synchronization point, and Altair is up there looking out over the city, and you've got the bright sun and the city laid out before you. It's amazing. It's a fantastic layout. Out of interest, have you achieved 100% sync?
No, I give him. Like, I just couldn't be bothered. I played on my original 360 from November till November the next year. That was the only game I played. Couldn't be bothered. I played that
For
a
a year,
lot.
non-stop.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. I just kept replaying my mission, but it killed me. All the flags, all the feathers. It was just pointless. There was no point to it, and it's what I argue these days. There's no point. Valhalla, you get tattoos. That's a point. There's a reward. Sea shanties, there's a reward.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed 1, here, have an achievement. It's like, ugh, really? 120 flags and I get an achievement. Even Unity, I think it's do a certain amount of rifts, you get Altair's robes.
Altair's robes or
Reward.
Thomas de Cunnion's armor. If you is it all the cockades for him? No, it's not. It's the Nostradamus enigmas, isn't it? So yeah, yeah.
It's that whole reward. You get something out of it, but Assassin's Creed 1's lacking that because it's the new game, and I
Mm.
don't mind, but I want something to do. There's going to be a reason why I've hunted like 47 hours for 47 flags, and
The
it's
collectibles are
pointless.
flags, and is it Templar hunts? You find just Templar dudes, don't you, randomly walking around the world? I think.
Flags. There's literally flags in everywhere, and they all have the different counter systems. I think there's like 40 in Messiah, 120 in the Kingdom, and they just keep going up and up and up and up. So it's like impossible. And then there's feathers, which again, 60 in Messiah, for example, but 150 in Jerusalem.
There's feathers as well, is there? That's not. You're not thinking of AC2, are you?
I'm pretty sure there's feathers.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, to sort of answer my own question, I was nowhere near 100% sync. I gave up with. I mean, I picked up a few flags that I saw, but when I saw how many you needed, I thought, nah, I'm just going to do the assassinations, get to the end of the story, and yeah, forget about all of the flags that you need to collect. And again, a few of the Templars that I found, I killed, but most of them are probably still alive and wandering around the map. I was wondering, how did you find the end of the game? Not from a story point of view, but just from a gameplay point of view. So you've got kind of two boss battles. You've got Robert de Sable, and then you've got Al-Mualim himself. How did you fare with those two fights?
It kicked my ass the first time.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that because, yeah, same here.
But truthfully, how they handled the ending was one of the best in the series, hands down. Like, they had the potential, in my opinion, now I'm revisiting it and I've watched cutscenes and I remember it, to ruin the game, to keep that historical accuracy. Would have just made the game just another generic historical game you play, playground, blah blah blah. But to have this mythical artifact that's nearly godlike as an ending was just like, I have just spent over 100 odd hours playing this game, and now, boom, there's some mystic godlike artifact. What the absolute heck is this? I need to know more. This is just, you've just basically made the game better for yourselves. You've just kicked it in its ass and said, let's do something so extreme no one's going to see it coming, because that's not how I ended it. I ended it just us going to England with Richard Lionheart because historical accuracy, we would have helped him. Nope.
Yeah.
Shiny Isu ball. Perfect. Give me it again. Give me that ending again.
It was a good sort of final sequence. Although, like you, Robert de Sable, he killed me so many times. This was one of those situations where I felt that the final boss battle was such a steep jump from the rest of the game. I was totally unprepared. It took me many attempts. It was really just through sheer bloody mindedness that I defeated him. And then we had Almu. I'd say one thing that always sticks in my mind is when you return to Masyaf and he's got the apple and he's taking control of the population. It's so unsettling to walk through that crowd that are gathered by the gates of Masyaf, and they're all just sort of zombies staring at you. When you push through the crowd of these people under control, it's a really nice setup for when you go for the final showdown. But again, he kicked my butt so many times. Thinking about it, I think I'd rather take on the Caledonian boar from Odyssey than Al Mualim again, because that guy, when he splits into, is it the 9 different or 10 different people himself and the 9 targets? That was a challenging fight, and I think I killed a few of the side targets before I got the real one. And I was so glad I got the real one because I was down to very little health by the time I got there.
I think I was just more interested in just. I think I died because I was just in awe. That was it. I didn't die because it was difficult. I was just like, go in. This dude splits himself, and I was like, are we really playing the same game? Like, I've just spent this whole entire franchise reading about historical accuracy, stabbing dudes up in medieval times, as I thought it was, because I was not very clued up on the Crusade back then. And then suddenly, my dreams of having the Ark of Covenant and open it and ghosts come out and lots of apocalyptic stuff came true, but it was more of an apple. And I think the apple annoyed me at first because stupidly every time I hear an apple of Eden, I'm thinking of an actual apple, a bit of a stalk, a little leaf,
Absolutely, some seeds in the middle. Yep.
something. It's just a ball, it's a sphere, and I was like, it's not an apple. It's a ball. Where's the apple? Why is it an apple of Eden? It's just a ball. But seeing him split himself into 9, it was just the biggest betrayal of the franchise because he's the teacher, screws you over, teaches you some wise old things, and he's like, ha, I'm going to take everyone over because I'm a douchebag. I was like, what? I liked you. You evil.
You make a good point there. So, one of the joys of the game and the story is returning to well, first having Al Mualim dress you down because you've screwed up right at the start of the game. You've got one assassin killed and poor Malik is maimed. And you get demoted right back to your starting rank. And one of the joys of the game is those conversations with Al Mualim as he educates you about the creed and what it means, and he's teaching you to think. But then he switches. And I'm trying to think back, and maybe this is very clear in the dialogue, and I've just forgotten it. But if he's always intending to gain control of the apple for himself, why does he bother investing any time in Altair? What's his goal? I don't remember.
Ooh, I have an idea.
Yeah, go for it.
It's because Altair is his prodigal son. That's essentially because when you look at the whole thing, Um, I think when you play the first mission, you break the first tenant, you don't stave the blade from the innocent, you kill an innocent, gone. You betray the Brotherhood, gone. And it's just in that whole scene where you pinned your arms behind and he bitch slaps you. That's just like the biggest thing because he slaps you.
That's a proper slap across the
I know.
face, isn't
It's like, but
it?
that signifies a unique point in the story. You know, he could have just stabbed him, slit his throat, chuck him off a roof. No, he slaps him. It's a physical. It's like a parental sort of thing. You know, back in them days, if your kid's been naughty, smack them on the ass. It's like,
That's a good interpretation, actually. It kind of is, isn't it?
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
my son's back chatting me, he back of my hand, and it's a fine fact of
Obviously, on this show, we don't condone,
no, we don't,
corporal punishment of your children. But anyway, yeah.
but in that sort of era, it would make historical sense. You know, that's how they probably would have back then. So backhanding a rude child is essentially what he's doing. It's like, hey, ignorant little boy, I'm talking, and it's the fact of that even Altair questions why he's alive. In Altair's mind, he knows he should have died. He should have been killed, but no. Alma Wynn gave him the taste of death, demoted him, and then said, hey, kill who I want to kill. It's as if he sharpened Altair into his own tool. He took his own targets.
That was it. Yes, of course. Okay. Yeah. He was using Altair to bump off the Templars. Yeah, got it. Got it. Who were competing for control of the apple. Ah, the old inside job again. Yep. Yep.
It's like one of the biggest praises I have of the franchise. A basic story
Mm,
blown up perfectly. You know,
mm,
Assassin's Creed 2, basic revenge story, but told brilliantly.
yeah. Yeah.
Black Flag, a basic pirate story of someone trying to get greed, but they find themselves. Told perfectly. Assassin's Creed can take a mundane story of an inside man, betrayal, loss of family, greed, and just blow it into something that's just meaningful and in depth. Or I'm just
Yeah.
going crazy.
No, not at all. I mean, if they were all the same, then it certainly would be repetitive and boring. And I don't follow the arguments where people say the franchise is repetitive and boring because if you look at the protagonists, sure, they got to go and stab people, but they've got their own motivations and they've got their own families and backstories and their own journeys. So it's never felt repetitive for me. Just on the AC2 point, I think a task for me is definitely to go and replay AC2. Played it once last year, enjoyed it. I definitely want to play it again, try and commit it more to memory because it's a significant upgrade in terms of world and story and all the rest of it from AC1. Excuse me. What do you think about AC1 in terms of its structure and its size? It's quite a short game. It's a relatively simple game, especially compared to some of the the monster games we've had in recent years. Do you think people would pay £60 for a game like that nowadays, or £70 a pound? It seems to be the new standard for console games.
I'm going to say no, I wouldn't. But how it is, no. But looking at it at the time, you know, the big open world at the time was like Elder Scrolls Oblivion. You know, it was big open world, and the Fallout franchise was coming out right about then. I might have the dates wrong. But looking at how it was built, and look at Prince of Persia, which came out in 2008, the Semi Ruby, which was not good, it was perfect for the time. You know, it was a stable linear map. But I am going to say that, and I know I'm going to anger a lot of fans, but Assassin's Creed 1's mechanics at core and story at core is better than any games that followed since. And I love every game since, but
Ooh.
I will explain myself so I'm not angering too many people, but I've played every game since. But I miss that mystery, you know. Every game since has counter system unlocked straight away. It makes combat mundane and boring, you know. I'm just hacking two buttons. It's very arcadey. As I've always said, I didn't like it. I like the whole learning, you know. Even though every character since one, except for Unity and Syndicate, they're all growing into assassins. But apparently they already know all the skills. They know everything. They know how to counter. They know how to be excellent
Oh, that's it. I see
swordsmanships.
what you mean. Yeah, interesting point. Yeah,
So they're not
yeah,
growing. There's no growth, and I think just that core mechanic of Altair growing from a novice to assassin hasn't really been felt for me in the other games. I think all the games have been fantastic, and they're all my favourites, and I do love what they've done. But I miss Altair's growth, how he grew from novice to master, and the whole interactions between the assassins and Al-Mualim discussing the philosophies of the creed.
yeah,
We don't get
yeah.
much. I think it's Arno does a really fantastic creed speech, so does Ezio, but no games have really delved into the philosophies of the creed, of why we're doing this. Ezio never questioned why he has to save the blade from the innocent. Ezio never questioned why he's hiding in plain sight. Ezio never questioned. That's
He
kind
doesn't
of
question it, but he explains the creed to Sophia at the end of Revelations. So he's and when he's giving that explanation, he's clearly, from the way that he speaks about it, he's clearly been considering it for many years, and he's considered its ramifications. So yeah, maybe he doesn't challenge it, but certainly I interpreted it that, and again, my memory is so hazy. I'm probably getting things wrong, but I interpreted it that he's had time to muse on his life, understand his role um, as an assassin and then as a mentor, and just to sort of to fully absorb and come to peace with what it means and full understanding of it. Um, it's interesting, is that I mean, Rogue is the interesting one because it it challenges just how the creed can be thrown apart or misused. What's not the right word? Misused is not the right word. Maybe it is the right word. Misinterpreted. Perhaps that's a better word. So there's definitely good examinations of the creed, but certainly there's that very simple. The story structure is so simple, isn't it? In AC1, you do some investigations, you kill the target, you return to Al Mualim, and he teaches you, he educates you in the creed, and he restores a piece of your gear or one of your skills. You do the investigations, you kill the target, and it's simple and it's brilliant. Um, Certainly, those investigations, I forget the details, but there's some different structure, isn't there? Certain, I think, is it the console versions have a slightly shorter or simpler set of investigations compared to the PC game. I think I've heard that. Um, but I thought I loved that whole process of sometimes you're eavesdropping, sometimes you're pickpocketing, and you're building up the intelligence you need to go and find the bad guy and infiltrate the area and then carry out the assassination. That was more satisfying than we've got it in the modern games. You've got it in Odyssey and in Valhalla with gathering the clues, but it's fairly simple. And that challenge that you had in AC1 was something different and something very enjoyable.
I think as well on that point, like different enjoyable. I think as well it's hard that Assassin's Creed 1 when it came out was new to the franchise. They didn't have to explore anything. They just gave you this story. Whereas when you look at every game since, there's always one or two mechanics they hook on, and then that's just it. Everything's built around it. Assassin's Creed 2 had like the way the gear system with Leonardo making new blades, the codex. So the world and the story was built around upgrading the hidden blade. And then 3 was like the whole settlement thing that became like a big thing, and then Black Flag was all around the naval. And these are all great parts of the franchise, and I'm not knocking them because I think what they added to the franchise made the franchise so great, and why I love it because there's always something different. But it's kind of like it's drifting away from how it started. Simple mission structures, the growth. As I've always said about Black Flag, Black Flag's one of the best for doing it because Edward is a Templar and an assassin. He has no allegiances. He sees both sides, so he's like Altair again. He's growing to the assassin, so he's like Altair. As we said with the Unity show, Arno is a bit like Altair. He questions the creed and that philosophy, but where's the simple discussing with your assassin buddies? Where's the simple back and forward between the assassins? It's in Assassin's Creed 3. Connor just does his own thing. He gets trained to be an assassin by Achilles, doesn't question it. Really, there's no. He doesn't say, "But why am I doing this? What's my real goal for becoming an assassin? I'm just doing it because I need to free my people." But what's the deeper meaning? I'm giving away my life for secrecy. Why am I doing it? And he has no real back and forward with Achilles. Like, that's a missing thing. He should have had the relationship Altair had with Al-Mu'in should be what Connor and Achilles had, back and forward, teaching him the creed. So maybe it's just me, but I do feel that there's that little edge that AC1 brought that's just been lost, if that makes sense.
Do you think that's a side effect, an inevitable side effect of the fact that so many of the games, I mean, since AC3 onwards, they have been origin stories. Whereas with Altair, he was already an assassin at the start of the game. Then he got demoted and had to relearn. Ezio was not an assassin at the start. He had to be taught the creed, and he had 3 games and a lot of time to muse on it. But since AC3, they've all been new assassins. What's the right word? New assassins, schoolboy assassins, or people like Cassandra who didn't follow the creed because there were no assassins at that time. So we've never had, since the early games, we haven't had a character who has aged and matured and have had a chance to think about, why am I doing this? As you say, Connor grew up, brought into the assassins to sort of enact revenge on what happened to his village and his mother, and he did it, and then it was all over. And we've never gone back to middle-aged Connor. How does he feel about what he did when he was a younger man? What does he feel about the creed? Has he grown himself and had a family that's changed his own outlook on life? And maybe that's why we need either a sequel to one of the existing games that goes and explores that, or we need a game that takes a middle-aged or a whatever assassin, or a story that just covers more time. So we see the young man or woman, the older man or woman, or whatever, and how their attitudes and their opinions change, and their musings on what the creed is, and whether that would feel repetitive to AC1, I don't know. Probably not, because I wonder how many people now are joining the franchise with the newer games and who simply will never go back to the early games. They've got no interest in playing a 14-year-old game, and therefore maybe it would be new content for them to do these kind of more philosophical explorations.
I do think them new philosophical type should come back. Just a one off, and I do believe hand on heart that if we had the next game of being someone who's in the order, he's an assassin, but having like question the creed and every mission he does for the Templar, for the assassins, every goal he does, there's always that interaction of going back, like a little hub. You go back to talk to your mentor who's training you, and you have that nice, healthy talk about the creed, and then you go do your own thing. I think that's what's missing because I love the games and they're all joint top for their own reasons because they all do great stories. But I don't feel since Assassin's Creed 1 that I've actually sat down and cared about the philosophies of the law. Arno Dorian's last speech was perfect. He made me care again about the creed.
Yeah,
He made me.
yeah,
It was Syndicate. They're pre-established assassins. They've been in the franchise. Fantastic story of setting out to do their own thing in London, but they never question their actions. They're in London. They're only assassins there with Henry Green, taking a whole Templar run situation down, but they never question their actions. I feel Syndicate should have had that philosophy. What they're doing, and they're doing the right thing. Do the assassins
yeah. It's a good
think
point
they
about
should be there?
Syndicate, isn't it? Because they just go and do. There are Templars there. Point me at them, and I shall deal with them. We shall deal with them. And this is something. This is a gap in my knowledge because I haven't yet played the Jack the Ripper DLC. And if Louise is listening to this, she's going to kill me. Have you played the Jack? I don't know if this is explored in the Jack. I don't think it is, but I don't know the story of that. Whether they explore, because it's set 20 years later, so they are older and wiser um, assassin twins. Whether they have that kind of more philosophical exploration, I'm not sure. But I need to play it. Do you know what? Halloween is coming up. I think a good spooky playthrough of Jack the Ripper is due.
I've never played it. I did buy the gold edition on PS4 before I sold it because of situations, but since moving to Xbox, I've never played DLC. I am now on Xbox on an impossible mission to get every Assassin's Creed. I need the Ezio collection because everyone keeps going on about, hey, did you know Assassin's Creed Ezio collection has a Leonardo DLC? No, I didn't. I played Assassin's Creed 2 when it came out. Did not know there's such thing as DLCs for it.
So,
So
what's the Leonardo? Oh, yeah, is that for Brotherhood?
I think it's for Brotherhood. It's one of the Ezio games has a Leonardo DLC, but I didn't know DLCs was such a
Some,
thing back then.
yeah, yeah.
So I was kind of like at a loss. So now playing back, people are like, there's DLC for the Ezio collection. I didn't know that. I need the Ezio collection now. There was DLC for
when I
Assassin's Creed 3.
when I played AC2, I didn't realise. I mean, I just bought the game. I think I got it on sale in a Ubi sale, or maybe I bought it through Steam in a sale. It was £2 or £3. It was pocket money, and the DLC, if I'm right, for AC2 is the Bonfire of the Vanities story, quest line, whatever it is. So is
That's the
it
one.
Savonarola's lieutenants that you have to kill, if I remember
I,
rightly? I think
I
that's right.
don't know. I didn't know it existed till Arshark put
Well,
up a tweet the other
this is
day.
this is this is just how much of a noob I am. I think maybe because I bought the game after so many years after it being released, or maybe it's presented differently on PC to how it might be presented on console. But it was just the next memory, so I just played it, and I didn't know it was a DLC because it's just kind of integrated. But whereas I was actually going somewhere with this. Where was I going? Ah, yeah, right. So AC1, back to AC1. Um, there's no DLC for AC1. I think every game in the franchise has been remastered. Like you say, the Ezio collection is a remaster for console. Rogue, I think I saw just recently. There's a remastered version of Rogue for Switch or maybe for console. Not sure. I tell you one thing that does frustrate me, and again, I'm no expert here, especially on the console side. When you look at the Assassin's Creed games, they are a right mess of original versions, remastered versions, different editions. This one's on console, this one on PC has a different feature set. It's a real mess of trying to work out what you're getting when you buy the game. Are you getting the full experience? But anyway, that's by the by. So when we come to AC1, that's the only game I think. I mean, obviously the newer games haven't been remastered like Origins and Odyssey because they don't need a remaster. Um, AC1, does it need a remaster? Would it benefit from a remake or some kind of update, or do you think it should be kind of left as its original creation?
Um, I'm clamoring for a remake half the time, but the more I study Assassin's Creed 1 and everything, I'm gonna hold my hands up now and then finally admit that no, the game should never be remade or remastered. And I know that's bad because PlayStation doesn't have backwards compatibility, so you can't play Assassin's Creed 1 on PlayStation.
Oh,
Only,
that's interesting. So with your Xbox, like you've got now, you're
it,
playing it through a backwards compatibility mode or something.
yes,
Oh,
you can
right.
play quite
Okay.
a lot of Xbox's Assassin's Creeds through Xbox backwards compatibility, but not PlayStation. Now, a remaster or remake would be helpful to give people that branch of the franchise, but the problem I'm having is one, what is the point of getting one with new graphics? Because I've seen how some of the face models in Assassin's Creed Remaster doesn't look right, so there's the worry that the remaster's not going to do the faces right or the animations. People are going to be put off. Again, it's too divisive. Assassin's Creed 2 onwards was so easy to remaster, but when you look at Assassin's Creed 1, there's so much cut content that if they put that into a remake to make the game sell, a lot of the original fans may not be happy because some of the mechanics that were going to be added was like, I think Six Keys mentioned like an economy system in the save. So
Oh,
As you go to the
really?
kingdom, you can loot
Right.
chests from the Templars guarding them. So there's like a little economy that's like an RPG style
Do you
economy.
need any of that? Nah.
No, but in my opinion, if I can buy a £6 game to get the original on Xbox, why am I going to buy a £30 version? Like, the only reason I wanted Assassin's Creed 3 Remaster with the Season Pass was because free aim. Assassin's Creed 3 didn't have free aim, and that aiming sucks so bad. So having the free aim was so useful. It made the game more enjoyable.
Is that something that's different then between the original version of AC3? Because I've only played the remastered version of AC3 because I got it as part of the Odyssey Seasons Pass. So I've never experienced, the original version. So that was something different, was it?
You know the aiming system in Assassin's Creed 2 with the gauntlet, where you
Which
just
just messed with my head when I first
yeah,
played it. I couldn't work out why every game I'd ever played, you right click to aim. Of course, you right click to aim and then you left click to fire. No, not in these games. That
okay.
really messed with my head.
Well, Assassin's Creed 3 had something like that. Now
Okay.
imagine with the bow and everything, it was very hard to maneuver.
Yeah.
Whereas Assassin's Creed 4, actually, you could aim any way you want. So
Yeah.
imagine trying to take a guide out and your cursor locks to someone else. You're alerting an entire camp, and you're like, damn it. So
Gotcha.
having free aim where you can like, take them all down, so much better. So with PC and Xbox, and again, I apologize to PlayStation, we have it easy. We can just go boot up the original. So there's
Yeah.
got to be
Yeah.
something there for people on PlayStation who can't go out and buy the original to buy it. Like, who's going to really, honestly, go and buy a remaster of a game that's just touch on graphics? That's just it. Nothing's changed. There might not be many new fans who are like, oh, I just watch the cutscenes. And then they'll realize
Yeah.
if they get the
Yeah.
original, there's a guy in Kingdom who's red as an enemy because that was a deleted quest, but it's still an Easter egg in it now. And they're like, "Oh, what's this red dude doing? He's an enemy, but there's no quest." So they should add that into it. Crossbows was cut. Crossbows would be a lot of fun in Assassin's Creed
Oh,
1.
this is the old. This is the old thing that people like to trot out that crossbows were deleted for historical accuracy. No, they weren't. But anyway, yeah. Crossbows could be back in a remaster or a remake. Oh dear.
I think it's just that it'd be nice to get it, and I wouldn't mind it, but I'm not a huge behind it anymore because I can
Mm,
play the original, so I'm
mm.
fine. But I do have the worry that if they did bring a remaster out, they would just end up delisting some of the older games to try and push people to more buy the newer one,
Oh,
which
right.
would worry me if they did that.
I think you'd want. Well, I have the original version here in my UB library, and yeah, you wouldn't want that to be touched. You'd still want that available if people just want to purchase the original version for £1 or whatever it sells for nowadays. Um, it's funny because the only thing I can see for me that's missing, without touching the fabric of the game, would be a graphical update. But like I said, right at the start of our discussion, the graphics were never an issue for me because the gameplay is good and the story is good. And if I want a game with beautiful graphics, I'll go and play Unity or Syndicate or Odyssey or whatever. Um, you know, um, and sure, I'm sure they could unpack the game and make beautiful 4K textures, but is it worth it? I'm not sure. I suppose there's that risk, isn't there, that the game is opened up and updated, and somehow the core gameplay is affected in a negative way. Like you said, there's different weapons added or different quests added for just for the sake of padding it out, and it doesn't need padding out. Having said that, I'll tell you one thing I was surprised about. So we got AC3 remastered with the Odyssey Seasons Pass. We didn't get a remaster with the Valhalla Seasons Pass. It does make you wonder. Year 2 Valhalla content. Would there be a new Seasons Pass? Might there be a remaster or a remake as part of that bundle? Because again, no details have been confirmed. We don't discuss leaks on this show, so we're not going to talk about any of the rumors. All we know is that there's going to be another DLC that's been publicly kind of what's the right word, hinted at by Ubisoft. So we're not saying anything that's not public knowledge. So we know there's going to be a second season. We don't exactly know what's in that second season. 1 expansion, 2. there might be room for a remake or a remaster in there, and that could be something that is relatively low cost for Ubisoft to do, and therefore they can add it to the bundle as part of tempting people to buy it.
There will be. I am admitting now that I don't know anything, but I know for the guaranteed fact AC1 or another Assassin's Creed game will be a part of the season pass.
You know
And
that
then
for a fact, did you say?
no, I said I know that from an intuition, like
Oh, okay. Because I
because
was about to say, if you've got insider information,
no,
don't be breaking your
no,
NDA because that would be
I
very bad.
no one knows anything. I don't think there's any guarantee, but from intuition, looking at Ubisoft and its business model, it makes logic sense for that to happen because theoretically, Far Cry 5 Season Pass came with a Far Cry 3 remaster.
Oh, did it? Right. Okay.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. More people bought the Season Pass because of Assassin's Creed 3 remaster, which came with Liberation and the DLCs. So
Yes. Yes.
you cannot tell me that from a logic point of view, which is why I'm saying intuition, that just force people into going for a new season pass because there is no need these days. It's because in 2020 again, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Elden Ring, again Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Um,
I cannot wait for Horizon Forbidden
I
West.
know
Oh,
looks
it's one of
good,
my
but
games. I've pre-ordered it. Oh, I am so looking forward to that game. Anyway, sorry, off
there's
topic.
there's a lot of games I want to pre-order and I wish I was
Yeah.
rich. But
Yeah.
um, what else is there? I think there's Riders Republic coming. There's Rainbow Six Extraction. They're juggernauts. How can you say to someone, "Hey, go buy our season pass for Valhalla for another year. Go and do it," and they're like, "Well, no, I've got Elden Ring, Marvel Midnight Suns. There's Far Cry 6 still out now. People will still be playing that in a few months."
That game does look fun.
I know
I'm seeing so much
it's
Far
on
Cry
my
6
wish
content.
list.
It does look like a lot of. I don't know if I probably won't buy it because it's expensive and I've still got so many other games to play, but that does look fun. Anyway.
I'm tempted to sell my kidney for half of these games because my list is getting longer.
That's
But
kind of a one way trip. That I wouldn't do that if I were you, my friend. But hey, it's your body.
but so with all these juggernauts coming out, like even
Yeah,
Elden
yeah.
Ring is literally competing for space because that's coming out on February 22nd, and there's a lot of games coming out then. So that's competing hard for space. No one's going to care about a new DLC for Valhalla. No one's going to like, yeah, I'm going to buy it because the fan reaction to the last two hasn't been solid because there has been some missed opportunities, which is understandable. So, as a fan, or as a new fan, who's seen all these connections to Assassin's Creed 1 in Valhalla, suddenly sees Season Pass, Assassin's Creed 1 Remaster, instant buy. It will fly
That's
off
a
the
good point.
shelves.
I mean, I'll just say for myself, I am again. We are assuming that year two content will be a new season's pass with a new price tag. Um, it might not be, but I'm guessing it will be. I am. It for me. It's not an automatic buy. Um, I'm I'm gonna wait and see what the content and what the story is because if it's another nation, and I'm not criticizing the teams that wrote Wrath of the Druids and Siege of Paris, they were enjoyable, but they were kind of optional side content that didn't for me advance Eivor's story and didn't advance the Hidden One story or the Order of Ancients or the Templar story, and that's the bit that I'm waiting for. Um, So for me, it's going to be a case of wait and see if the DLCs or one DLC, whatever the content is, if it does advance those stories, I'll definitely buy it and I'll definitely play it. But I'm in a wait and see situation right now. Um, if
I
it
think
does include a remaster or a remake of one of the early games like KC1, that's definitely going to start to tilt those scales more towards, yeah, I'll have a look at it. But then again, it's so tough, isn't it? Because there's a YouTuber that I watch called Mighty Jingles, and he plays a wide variety of different games. And he was talking a few months ago when the Mass Effect Legendary Edition was released, and lots of his subscribers were saying, "Are you going to play it? We love you." He does a lot of sort of story narrations of his games. We'd love you to play the game for us and do the sort of story narration that you do. And he said, "Why would I do that? I played the games 10 years ago. I know the story. This remaster, it's the same story. I'm not going to spend my time or my money on it. And I'm kind of wondering the same thing. If it is AC1, but just with new textures, I don't know. Is it worth it? I've already played it. I know that Al-Mualim gets defeated. I don't really need 4K textures to know that how Altair, progresses through his story and matures and grows up into this wise assassin.
This is what's the word? An idea that could be wrong, but I'm feeling that looking at sales and how bundles are made, I've seen a lot of like bundles that are like Unity, Syndicate, Rogue, all in one bundle. I could imagine the season pass giving us Assassin's Creed 1 Remaster as big game, which will come with all the like Chronicles story from Altair's Chronicles, Altair's Bloodlines,
Oh,
like
now you're
Liberation.
talking.
See, because
Because those were only on.
PS,
Was it one of those on DS?
DS and PSP.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm not going to go to eBay and buy a
this
PSP and a DS so I can play Bloodlines and Chronicles. But hey, if that would be interesting. If all three of those became available on PC and console, that would be interesting.
See, and this isn't a rumor, this isn't a leak, so it's allowed to talk because I have touched on it in Crusade rumors. It is known that Assassin's Creed Sophia, Ubisoft Sophia, is working on the next part of Assassin's Creed. It
Okay,
is known. But when you look at Ubisoft Sophia's credentials, they are known for ports of
they made
stuff,
Liberation on Vita, didn't they?
and
The
they
original version of
ported it
Liberation.
to console.
Oh, did
They've
they?
worked on ports, they worked on, I think they helped port over Rogue to console. So they know about porting. Makes sense. It's why I did talk about the Crusade rumors a while ago, because they're not leaks because nothing's confirmed or denied. They're just rumors that Assassin's Creed Sphere is working on Assassin's Creed project. It would make sense a small studio like that to port these little things over. But if you buy that season pass, I guarantee it, hidden in a loophole will be if you buy it, you're going to unlock the next gen upgrades for a lot of older Assassin's Creed games like Black Flag. I think the Ezio Collection already has it, but Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, next gen upgrade, Assassin's Creed Unity's already got it now. Syndicate would also get one. I think it's going to be part of a loophole to push
Interesting.
them all
Yeah,
because we're
Syndicate apparently has some problems on. I think it's on Xbox. There's some lighting problems with Syndicate on Xbox,
I
or is it
believe
PlayStation 5? Unity
I
runs fine, but yeah, there's definitely I've seen people on Reddit saying that Syndicate is not very hard to play, but there's some flashing lighting issues which I don't believe have been acknowledged or worked on. But you know, I mean, the fact that Odyssey got a 60 FPS update a few months ago, um, maybe there's more work. Let's hope they get gradually going back through the franchise and releasing these kind of graphical updates or 60 FPS updates. I'm still hoping for a Unity Discovery tour with photo mode, but that's never going to happen.
I think it's now I remembered it, PS5 Syndicate,
Right?
because one of the biggest selling points, because I wanted to get PS5 before I got the Digital Series S, and it's
Yeah.
tangent, was all PS4 games can be played in PS5, but when they released that 99% of them were available day one of the ones that they were struggling to port over was AC Syndicate. It was actually one of the ones they
Interesting.
was struggling to port over. Xbox it worked fine, but PS5 was struggling to port it over.
Okay.
So I'm not being rude. If you're going to try and convince people to play, get the season pass, just chuck a pound update for every Assassin's Creed game to hit 60 FPS. You'll get everyone jumping on.
Oh,
Do
I
you,
think so.
do you want
Yeah.
Origins at 60 FPS? Or buy Valhalla season pass and it'll automatically unlock. Dodgy business move that I
Mm.
don't think
Mm.
anybody would do because no one's stupid enough to do that. But it would boost your sales quite a lot. I wouldn't like, but if they can give me a season pass next year and give me Assassin's Creed 1 remastered for free, Ezio Collection for free, maybe give me the Black Flag upgrade, that'd be nice. Maybe give me Syndicate for free, and or then I'll buy it.
Sounds like you want every single game in the franchise. Have you seen? We are way off topic from our original AC1 discussion, but I was looking on the Ubi store the other day, and you can buy. I think they call it the Animus bundle. It's every single game in the franchise, and it's £400. Oh
I'm
my
struggling
word!
to I'm struggling to afford the Ezio collection. That's like
That's
£39.
really expensive, though. Yeah,
I
I mean,
know.
these. No offense, Ubisoft, but these games are like 10, 11 years old, and you're charging 30, 40 quid for them. It's
I've
mad.
I've been trying to save up for the Ezio collection for over 5 years, but I keep putting my money in newer games that are going to cost 40, 50 games. So I haven't been able to afford the SEO collection for over 5 years because
Yeah,
in the 5 years I've been playing on PS4, it was always £39. And the cheapest I saw it was 20 quid. And I was like, I can't
yeah,
afford it this week. So maybe a permanent discount on it. Just knock it down permanently to 20 quid, then I'll buy it. But
yeah, yeah.
we're off topic. We're
We are.
swimming
We
up a
we
river
should.
of tangents.
We should probably talk about. I don't know. AC1. What can we say? I mean, uh, early sound issues aside, which I figured out, it was. I think, as I said right at the start, it was the most challenging game for me from a combat point of view, from a control point of view. I think if I went back now, I I would adapt much more quickly. But it was tough, and those final boss fights, my word, I think they were the hardest ones I've done in the entire franchise. I'm not sure if I'd replay it, to be honest. Um, I feel I've done it. It was quite challenging, but I did enjoy it. It was satisfying, but I'm not sure that there's anything there to sort of pull me back. Would you? I mean, you're sort of halfway through or a quarter of the way through now. Are you sort of diving in every few days? Are you still kind of got that focus on getting it finished?
I, I don't. I think it's weird. There's no focus to get it finished. The focus is just pure nostalgia. I want to see it again, but it's kind of like reading a book. You read a book, let's say back in 2000, and then you read the final ever book in 2014. You want to see how it's grown. You want to see how has it got this far. And so I just kind of feel like replaying it now makes you realize that, yeah, okay, Odyssey does have some RPG mechanics that are not perfect. Valhalla does have some parkour issues. Origins had dodgy hitbox at times for RPG. But when you play Assassin's Creed 1, again in 2021, you start to fall in love with them dodgy mechanics because you've seen how a franchise of 14 years old has willing just to grow up. It's changed, it's adapted, it's blossomed. So I just think, in my opinion, that you need to replay it to understand how this franchise has decided that we need to change to grow, which is a weird statement to say.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it started from there, didn't it? And they built on it with every release. So let's close with a final question from me then. Now, if you're listening to this and you think I'm being negative about the game, not at all, not at all. It was really enjoyable, brilliant story, challenging, rewarding. As I said a few times, definitely wanted to put my keyboard through my screen, but very rewarding. What would you say, Declan, to someone who's listening to us now? We're recording, middle of October, 2021. We may have people listening who have not gone back to the early games. Would you say to them, definitely buy, definitely play? Or would you say, give it a miss?
My recommendation always is go try because I know throwing money at the old games for you not to love is going to be tricky, and I do get that. I'm a person who can't just throw money at a game and be happy. But I would recommend going back because you're going to see how this franchise has matured. You're going to see how that you may not like a certain mechanic in this game now, but you may find it in an old game that you love. People, for example, love parkour. You may not find it in Valhalla, but you find it in Unity and you fall in love with Unity's story. So if you have just picked up Valhalla today for the first time, and you're like, I'm enjoying this and I want to know more, I would say try as many of the old games as you can. Just go, have fun. You may not like them, you may not like some mechanics, but you're going to realize that this story over 14 years has grown so much that it's just addictive and it sticks in your mind.
It's a good summary. Good summary. I think that's a good place to close the show.
I will admit, when I pitched this idea to you, I was like, for the last 20 minutes, I can't natter on for about an hour and 10 minutes about why I love Assassin's Creed 1, you know.
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's this, like we said, the story's excellent. Yeah, there's a few things that are challenging, but yeah, it's an excellent game. Very satisfying to play. Very simple. Like I said, you've got investigation, assassination, learning with Al Mualim, and you go round that circle a few times, but it's fantastic. Fantastic in its simplicity, that's for sure.
Whenever I hear you say investigation, assassination, and I realise it rhymes, I feel like we could start Assassin's Creed rap going on here. You
Oh my
investigate,
word. I'm
assassinate,
definitely
you
not
know.
doing that.
So, I think we do have run out of time this week, but I'm amazed we've lasted an hour 10 blabbering on about Assassin's Creed and a little river of tangents we fell down.
I'll tell you what, when we're all done talking in 20 minutes, we know that we're running out of things to say. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that for future episodes. But for now, we're all right.
So thank you everyone for tuning in, and if you actually have gone back to Assassin's Creed 1, then please reach out to me and James on Twitter at AC Let's Talk and at James Tiddlyquid. If you want to come on these episodes and discuss about the old games, newer games, or really anything, my show is so open to whatever you want to talk about that come join me. Cosplay, artists, games, come have some fun.
Definitely. We've had, in the last, 8 weeks, we've had 5 guests, and we love having guests on the show.
I'm addicted to having guests.
We just like chatting to people, and yeah, if you've got topics you want to discuss or questions you want to raise, or you've got some burning desire to go back to an early game or a particular character, yeah, we'd love to hear from you, because we're always interested in finding new episode ideas and just talking to people with interesting perspectives like we've had recently.
So, as always, my emails are open 24/7 at Assassin's Creed Let's Talk at gmail.com. You cannot start an email with at. I need to remember that. So email me anytime you want. If you've got any topics, discussions, or feedback. My DMs are always open as well, so please reach out to me for anything you'd like to discuss. I hope you're enjoying the franchise, and if you've been here for 14 years like me, I really do want you to tag me. As soon as you hear this episode, tag me, because I want to know how you are holding up after 14 years of twists, turns, Isu gods. Well, I know the gods, but Isu balls, everything. I want to know how you guys are holding up after
Can't believe you
14
said
years.
Isu balls. Oh my word.
I am making a nod back to the Sisterhood server. This is the best thing I've seen in a Sisterhood server. Someone mentioned Isu balls, and I just cannot get it out of my head. So please reach out, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. See you.